My girlfriend stole my money, so I ruined her life with one video. I'm a senior at a large state university. This happened in the first semester of my freshman year. I was selected for an honors-type program that placed me in a co-ed dorm building with every student in the program. As a dumb freshman, I rushed into a relationship with a freshman girl who lived right above me. We'll call her Megan. It was convenient for me to date someone who lived so close, but everyone else in our building hated Megan because she talked a lot and almost exclusively about herself. She bragged often about being a fairly aggressive person, but somehow I overlooked that mile-wide red flag. Right after Thanksgiving break, at the end of an evening class, I got a call from my mum, who noticed some unusual activity on my checking account. Back then, I had no credit card, so this account or debit card was my only access to my savings while I lived on campus. I rarely needed to buy anything during the semester, so I was puzzled to find that $104.29 had left my bank account over 2 weeks, in the form of 6 Grubhub food orders. At this point, I trusted Megan, but I decided to ask her about the money right away. She denied any involvement and suggested that I cancel my debit card. After a really long phone call to the bank, I did just that. Next, I reached out to Grubhub customer service on Twitter. Hey, my card was stolen and used for food orders on those dates. Can I have the receipts? They sent me the first and last receipts, but they had to redact the personal info of the account holder. I say redact in quotes because they just used the Snapchat draw tool, and Megan's name was still clearly visible on both receipts. What's more, the most recent receipt was only 2 hours old. She was probably still eating when I chopped up my debit card. It's worth noting that she and I both had unlimited dining plans, paid for by our respective parents, and we lived 500 feet from the nearest dining hall. She didn't need to order food, and she definitely didn't need my money to do it. So I texted her again. I have the receipts from Grubhub. Are you sure you didn't make those orders? Her reply, frick you for suspecting me. Fairly aggressive, wouldn't you say? I hatched a plan to collect security camera footage of her picking up the order from that evening. However, by midnight, Megan arrived at my door in tears and confessed to everything. Plus, she admitted to being a serial shoplifter. Exhausted, I sent her away and decided to deal with everything in the morning. By the next day, everyone in our building seemed to know what was going down, probably because Megan had already begun broadcasting her version of the story. I sent Megan a breakup text and decided that the $104.29 was a loss. At least I escaped unscathed, right? Well, less than 2 days later, she entered my room when I wasn't looking. I was sitting at my desk when I noticed her standing silently behind me. Give me my stuff. Where's my stuff? What stuff? You know. I didn't know. She tore through the room looking for something that she refused to identify. Just as quickly as she came, she was gone. I locked the door because obviously this wasn't over yet. Within a minute, she was back. She stood outside my door, knocking and demanding I let her back inside. The knocking quickly got more violent. She started shouting, I know you're fricking in there, and open the mother-fricking door. Mind that we lived in this building with students in our program who all know each other and all of them could hear her. Pretty quickly, Megan was rattling the handle of my door. Next, she began throwing herself at it, shoulder first, trying to break it down. I lived next door to my residential advisor, but judging by the lack of any intervention, he was elsewhere. So I whipped out my phone and texted him to send backup. Meanwhile, I saw my heavy wooden door bending and buckling. I even heard it crack a bit. My RA was on duty in another building, so he sent 3 of his colleagues to de-escalate the situation. They brought Megan downstairs where she revealed that the stuff she wanted was just the t-shirt and keychain that she gave me for my birthday. Whatever. I let her have those, I still just wanted this to be over. However, once I shared my story with the resident life staff, they filed university paperwork to place a no-contact order between me and Megan. They also recommended I contact campus police, who then told me I should get my stolen money back in small claims court. But I couldn't even get there without a car or money to pay for an Uber. Sorry, Judge Judy. At the request of the campus police, I also contacted the Title IX office at my school, sending them the story of everything you've read so far. They were interested, to say the least, although I didn't want any trouble. I just wanted a clean breakup and a fresh start. But a Title IX representative informed me that they were bringing 3 misconduct charges against Megan: theft, threatening and violent behavior, and inciting an intervention by university staff. The representative asked me to serve as a witness in Megan's disciplinary hearing the next semester. I tentatively agreed right before the representative set me the hearing date for February 14th, Valentine's Day. I thought it was a joke, but they really did that. When the day of the hearing finally arrived, the no-contact order was still in effect, but a few of my friends had kept tabs on Megan. For starters, she failed all of her classes in the fall. Someone in my math course confessed that Megan had tried to sleep with him while she was dating me, and he had to repeatedly tell her no. Even worse, Megan kept telling a twisted version of the whole story to try and turn my friends against me. So when I found out that she had found a new boyfriend, it felt good to know the V-Day disciplinary hearing ruined whatever evening plans they might have had. I arrived alone at the disciplinary board office, unsure of what to expect. The board consisted of grad students, and the hearing was expected to run into the night. Unlike me, Megan did not come alone. She brought both of her parents as character witnesses. That wasn't even a thing here. This wasn't a real courtroom, as you'll soon see. And that's not all. Megan's parents also paid a lawyer to defend her against the charges. The board knew that was unnecessary, but Megan's parents believed so strongly in their daughter's innocence that they'd already paid this 3-piece suit to make her case. In the name of fairness, the board members offered me pro bono legal representation, a junior economics major who we'll call Jimmy. Jimmy had already read my account of the events from the fall, and thanks to my screenshots of Grubhub receipts, he said there was an okay shot of the charges sticking. Then I told him something I'd kept secret for months. When Megan tried to break down my door, I whipped out my phone to text my RA, and I'd also filmed the whole thing. Jimmy couldn't get enough of the video. There was Megan, kicking and screaming and clearly trying to break into my dorm room. It was all the evidence I needed, and no one saw it coming. In the hearing, when the time came for me to make the case against Megan, Jimmy played the video on a big screen in front of everyone. The room went insane. In that instant, I realized that Megan had really convinced everyone that I was the liar. In her version of the story, I gave her permission to buy food using my account. She told her parents that she had asked me politely for her belongings, which I'd rudely hidden from her in my dorm room. In Megan's story, I was the sociopath trying to ruin her reputation. Before I unveiled the video, it was her word against mine. I still didn't want revenge, even after finding out that Megan tried to cheat on me. But when I saw her parents flipping out at the video, "Why didn't you tell us that you did this?" and her lawyer raising hell, "This evidence was not provided in pre-trial disclosure," and a board member standing over him, "Sir, this is not a court of law, please return to your seat," and him shouting, "Objection!" and her replying, "We don't have objections, this isn't a court of law," and Jimmy, my new best friend, just trying not to laugh out loud. That's when I realized how good revenge can feel when it's fair and deserved. The board found Megan responsible on all 3 charges. My side of the bench recommended the university terminate her housing contract and force her to pay restitution. Her side recommended only restitution and a reprimand. The board compromised. Her family paid back most of the money she stole, most because 2 of the 6 orders had the same price, and the lawyer convinced the board I'd duplicated an order. And Megan was forced to move into a different dorm building. This probably would have helped her anyway because every student in our program's building knew everything she had done and lied about. They wouldn't speak to her and no one wanted to be her roommate. By the time she had to move buildings, she'd already failed all of her courses again, and having paid for her tuition, her unused dining plan, her lawyer, and her restitution, Megan's parents finally pulled her out of school. Where are they now? Last I heard, Megan returned as a part-time student, but I never saw her again, because the no-contact order still stands. I'm now Facebook friends with the guy Megan tried to seduce. Oh, and Jimmy and I connected on LinkedIn. As for me, well, I no longer date fairly aggressive people. In short, my ex stole money for food, lied about it, tried to break down my door, lawyered up for a university hearing, got caught by video evidence, lost the support of her parents, lost respect of her friends, and left campus. Huh, So the narrator was under the impression that big evidence reveals like you see on television just don't happen because of the discovery process that normally occurs in a court of law, where all documents and footage are examined beforehand, like the lawyer alluded to in this story. I guess this shows that no such rules need apply in the arbitration or mediation process, and you can have all the dramatic bombshells that you want. Maybe I need to go and watch some of these if I want some real-life drama. But yeah, Megan is the jerk, both to our author and to everyone else in her life. I know how expensive tertiary education can get in the United States, and she does not seem like the kind of person who gets a scholarship, honestly. So she put her folks out a bunch of money as well as all the other horrible things she subjected her peers and partners to. At least her folks will be watching her closely from now on, and she won't have them on side if she tries to slander future partners. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked below. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Entitled Dad Picks Up Shark and Ruins Day for Everyone. Hi, I work at an aquarium as an educator and I see a lot of crap. On this particular day, it wasn't too busy, but we're still dealing with COVID, so a lot of things are closed at my aquarium. We're working on opening everything, but it's hard. I was working the shark touch station. Now, these particular sharks are nocturnal in the wild and tend to take naps during the day. As a side note, if you don't know, not all sharks have to swim to breathe. These sharks don't, so they're typically laying on the bottom of the tank for their naps. I like to explain that when people come up and see that they're not moving. On this particular day, we were kind of busy and the sharks were having their afternoon nap. A family came up and noticed the sharks weren't moving. So I came in with, yeah, so they're asleep and that's totally normal, but if you have long enough arms, you can try to touch them. But keep in mind the water is cold and they're at the bottom of the tank. The dad nods and reaches into the tank, poking at the shark hard enough to wake it up and thus making it move to the other side of the tank. The dad looks at me, irritated. Now what? Well, you can wait for them to wake up and come to you, or you can move to this section. It's a bit deeper, but there are a lot of sharks there to touch. He rolled his eyes and moved his family. At the new section, it was too deep for the kids to reach and they were starting to throw a fit. When this happens, I like to offer them other things they can do or tell them other animals are up ahead and always say they can come back to see if the sharks have moved. This guy was not having it. He started throwing a fit, saying it was unfair that the sharks were asleep while people were wanting to touch them. I explain the normal stuff I say when people get upset, which only upset him more. He then proceeded to reach down, grab a shark by the tail, and lift it out of the water. I was bewildered. I see people push the sharks and try to move them on a normal basis, but no one removes them from the water until today. I didn't know how to react. They don't train you for this. I say, sir, please put the shark down. They need to live in the water. My kids will touch this shark. I panic. Sharks and other animals can die from stress, and this shark was not having a great time. I quickly call my lead, and as he's rounding the corner, the man drops the shark, causing the other sharks to wake up and become agitated. The entitled dad takes off to the next exhibit with my lead not far behind. I call the animal care team and essentially close down the touch station until I get the okay to open it. It didn't open the rest of the day, which caused a lot of angry parents the rest of the day, but that's for another story. I think my lead caught the dad and kicked him out, but not without him demanding a refund for the lack of things open and the lack of fun they had. I don't know if he got it. He probably did. We're known for handing out refunds for the dumbest things. I was too busy focusing on the animals. The sharks ended up being fine and we were able to open the station the next day. So my note to everyone, please do not pick up the sharks at your local aquarium. Thanks! Okay, I've got an update. I got in contact with the lead for that day and asked him what the consequences were. He said we hold a 2-strike policy and gave the dad a warning. He came in the next day and got into an argument about the mask policy with the executive manager of the aquarium. He spit on the floor and was then escorted out by police, more than likely charged. He was then put on a ban list, and we did not give him a refund for that day. It brings me all the satisfaction in the world to know that this man didn't get any of his money back after his crappy behavior. Let's just throw the advice of the working experts to the wind and distress an innocent animal for your own gratification. And it goes without saying, of course this absolute crock of number 2 was an anti-masker. Because if you're going to behave like that much of an absolute inconsiderate jerk at the aquarium, why not just apply the same attitude to everything else as well? A ban well deserved. We can only hope that the kids see their dad being banned from everything and learn the correct lessons, because he sure as crap isn't going to. Neighbor had my brother's car towed on our property. I'm pretty annoyed because this happened just a few hours ago. So just to give a rundown of the people involved, there's me, my neighbor, who from here on in will be referred to as Nosy Old Bat or Knob for short, and yes, she's an entitled boomer, as well as her husband, who's fairly nice, and my brother, who we mention rather than being directly involved, as well as my grandmother. For some backstory, Knob and I both live on corner houses next to a busy street, which is relevant to the story. And oh man, is this lady bordering on insane. I've lived in this house my entire life with my grandmother. I'm 28, and where I live, it's hard to live on your own, especially with the pandemic going on now and being temporarily out of work, because finding work that's disabled accommodating is a pain, especially when you have asthma and people are paranoid that an asthmatic has COVID. I get it, but it's tiring to explain that no, I don't have the virus, I have asthma, and I can't infect anyone with my bad lungs. Knob did used to watch me for a little bit when I was 6 years old until my aunt could pick me up to babysit me. This apparently has given her the mindset that she can attempt to control my life and tattle on me to my grandmother, who nowadays knows when I have company and if a friend parks in the driveway. I'll just call her or text her to let her know and ask her to let me know when she'll be home so I can tell my friends they need to move their car. Unless Grandma tells me that it's fine and she'll park on the other side of the street, which she does occasionally even if there's no one in the driveway. This should all be a non-issue, right? Not to Knob. She's been known to get up in my business and go and knock on my door and demand to know who's there and if I'm doing the nasty with those friends. I'm asexual, so it's hilarious to me when people ask if I'm sleeping around, but it's infuriating when Knob asks this, because she's nosy as frick and thinks she practically owns the neighborhood due to the aforementioned corner houses and acts as if this is an HOA. It's not, thank God. And like she's in charge of her imaginary HOA, as should we be because of our house on the other corner. She makes calls on other people's behalves constantly. We're no different. Anyway, stage dressing aside, here we come to the story. So, my little brother is a Marine and is currently deployed in Hawaii. And his car has been on our property for a while now because, well, he can't come and drive it since he's in Hawaii. This apparently gives her the idea to call a tow truck because it hasn't been moved since he left it. It's not even a terrible looking car either, but I guess it annoyed her that it was sitting there due to it being a car she didn't know. My grandmother's now dead truck has been there longer, but Knob knows whose it is because she's seen her drive it. This happened between the time my grandmother and I left for Costco and the time we got home. Knob called the towing company to tow my brother's car because, in her batty old boomer logic, after my grandmother went over to her house to confront her, it's been over there for 2 weeks and is just sitting there. On our property, not hurting anything. Her husband, the nice neighbor, as crotchety as he can be, was unaware that his wife did this because he likely wasn't home, so he had said he wasn't sure when he talked to us. So now my grandmother has to call the police and the towing company to get the car back, and she's rightfully furious, as am I, about this, because it means another towing fee that was completely unnecessary. She can't even get it until tomorrow because nothing is even open. She was met with voicemails of the towing not even being open either, which was bizarre before 7 p.m, but whatever, I don't know the towing hours, since we haven't had to deal with that before. I absolutely hate Knob with a seething and unholy passion because this isn't the first time she's attempted this garbage either. She's done this on other neighbors because she thinks she can police the neighborhood because of her corner house logic. I don't care how rude this makes me, but I will not be paying that towing fee, and I will not be letting my grandmother pay it. Knob will be paying that because it's none of her business to be nosing her old face into things. I don't care if you're old, you don't get to stick your nose in someone else's business and life, especially if the thing in question is on someone else's property. I'll take this woman to court if she refuses to pay, because she had no right to do this. I mean, what was my brother supposed to do? Be all like, oh hey guys, it's been 2 weeks, let me go back to my grandmother's and drive my car around the block. I'll be back on Monday with all the flights. Yeah, as if his commanding officer would allow for that just because of Knob. I'll give updates if anything further happens because, yeah, I'm furious and I don't really care if the old woman doesn't want to pay it. She will or she'll face court for her nosiness. Okay, late update. My cranky and tired butt marched over to her house, she was awakened outside, and I ripped a new one into her about keeping her nose in her own stuff and having to pay for the towing, or I was going to take it higher up and nail her for illegally having it towed. She's paying for the tow truck, if reluctantly. I haven't slept, thanks insomnia, you're a pal, so I have no Fs to give about being cordial or polite with this BS. Entitled people need to mind their own damn business and leave people alone. Am I the jerk? So the narrator did not see this actually working out in the author's favor, to be honest, at least not right away. I was getting ready to comb the replies to see the court battle and see this woman be forced to pay up despite her never coming to terms with the reality of the fact that this was actually her fault. So color me surprised. She's a jerk, but not beyond reason? In any case, she just kind of sounds like your typical bored, cranky old neighbor in an urban apartment. Probably needs a couple of other wake-up calls like this to put her in her place, or more ideally, a hobby of some sort so that she's completely distracted from similar non-issues. Maybe if you get similarly angry at her next time she pokes her nose into your bedroom life, that'll put a stop to that as well. It's not really any of her business, even if you have multiple new partners a day, sometimes often at once. And on that high note, have a nice week, folks. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories. Or if you want to check out some great music, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, give Am I the Genius a shot. Everything linked in the description.